I still remember the exact moment Mark fired me. It was a Tuesday afternoon, the kind where the office hums with quiet, focused energy, and I was deeply buried in quarterly sales data spreadsheets, sprawling across my desk like a complex map I was desperately trying to decode. Suddenly, the door to my office flew open with a bang. No knock, no warning. Just Mark storming in, his face flushed with an arrogant sort of power, his presence loud and deliberate, as if he wanted to rattle me. "Elena!" He barked, his voice sharp, tossing a file onto my desk, so hard it skidded across and nearly fell off the edge. "We need to talk. Now." My heart skipped a beat, but I kept my face perfectly steady. I'd learned to do that over the years, stay calm, even when the air around you feels like it's about to crack. I looked up at him, the man I'd worked under for 4 long years, and simply said, "Of course," gesturing to the chair across from me. He didn't sit. Instead, he just loomed there, his shadows stretching ominously over my papers. His eyes narrowed like he was sizing me up for something I didn't yet understand. "The board's decided to restructure the leadership team," he said, his voice clipped and cold like he'd rehearsed this moment countless times. "We're moving in a different direction, and frankly, we need people who can lead, not just follow spreadsheets." I blinked, the words hitting me like a slap I hadn't seen coming. "You're firing me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, more out of sheer shock than anything else. He smirked, then a cruel, satisfied twist of his lips, like he'd just sunk a game-winning shot. "Let's not be dramatic," he said. "We're releasing you from your position effective immediately. No warning, no performance review, no acknowledgement whatsoever that my department had just delivered the highest revenue growth in 3 years. Just me sitting there and him standing over me as if he'd already erased me from the company's story." That moment, it's burned into me, the way the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, the faint smell of stale coffee lingering in the air, the heavy weight of his words sinking into my chest. I could have screamed or cried or even thrown that file back at him, but I didn't. I just sat there steady as a rock and said, "I see. May I ask why?" His answer came fast, sharp, like he'd been waiting to deliver this scathing critique. "You lack vision. You manage tasks, not people. And let's be honest, this industry needs strong leadership, assertiveness, confidence, traits you haven't exactly demonstrated." There it was, not even subtle. A dig at me at who I was wrapped in corporate buzzwords. He didn't see me as a leader, not because I hadn't delivered results, but because I didn't fit his arrogant mold. Because I was a woman in a room he clearly thought belonged exclusively to men like him. I nodded, my voice calm, almost neutral. "I understand." He squinted at me, thrown off. I think he wanted to fight some explosive outburst he could use to further prove his twisted point. But I'd learned long ago how to hold myself together in rooms full of puffed-up egos. "I'll need your badge and company laptop by the end of the day," he added, already turning away. "Your access will be disabled by 500 p.m. HR has your severance details." I stood, extended my hand, and said, "Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the clarity." He hesitated, shook it briefly, and muttered, "Good luck out there," before walking out looking utterly satisfied, as if he'd just won something monumental. I sat back down, exhaled slowly, and stared at the framed photo on my desk, my father smiling broadly at the ribbon cutting for the company's first regional office. The very same company Mark had just released me from. My hands didn't shake. My breath didn't quicken. In fact, I felt lighter, almost buoyant. Because what Mark didn't know, what no one in that entire building knew, was that I wasn't just some department head he could casually toss aside. 2 weeks ago, something massive had shifted, and I'd been patiently waiting for the perfect moment to use it. I ran my fingers along the edge of that photo frame and whispered, "You told me to wait, Dad. Wait until the time was right." And now it was. The legacy of Rentec more than just business. Let me take you back a little so you can truly understand why this moment stung so deep, and why it ultimately set the stage for everything that came next. My father, James Wren, built this company from nothing. Rentec started as a tiny tech startup in a cramped rented garage. Just him and a handful of brilliant dreamers tinkering with code and circuits. He had this incredible vision, not just of innovation, but of people. He truly believed a company wasn't defined by its products or its profits. It was the dedicated humans who showed up every single day to make it real. I grew up in that world. As a kid, I'd spend weekends at his office sprawled happily under his desk with crayons while he worked. He'd take me to meetings, introduce me to his team, and point at a blinking server rack, saying, "Elena, this is how we build things with hard work, with big ideas, and most importantly, with trust." He'd ruffle my hair and grin, and I'd feel like I was a genuine part of something significant, something truly special. When he tragically passed away 5 years ago, a sudden heart attack that stole him from us far too soon, I was just 25, fresh out of college, and utterly heartbroken. The company felt it too. He'd been its very soul, and without him it slowly started to drift. I joined Rentec not long after starting at the bottom, exactly like he'd always wanted me to. "You've got to earn it, Elena," he'd said, his wisdom echoing in my mind. "Know every piece of this place." So I did. I worked diligently in customer support, in logistics, and marketing, soaking it all in. I loved it. The organized chaos, the challenging problems, the quiet victories when a complex project finally came together. But then Mark came along. Mark Reynolds showed up a year after Dad died, all practiced charm and impeccable credentials, a Harvard MBA, slick expensive suits, and a handshake that lingered just long enough to feel calculated. The board, dazzled by his resume, ate it up. They saw him as the undeniable future, a numbers guy who would modernize us. But I, observing from the trenches, saw what they didn't. He wasn't about people. He was purely about power. He started cutting corners coldly, laying off veterans who'd been with us since the very beginning, replacing them with cheaper hires who had no understanding of our company's history or culture. He systematically turned meetings into his personal stage, ruthlessly steamrolling any ideas that didn't originate from him or his carefully selected inner circle. The vibrant culture my father had so lovingly built, warm, collaborative, truly human, it slowly, painfully began to erode. And me, I was just another voice he casually ignored. I stayed, though stubbornly believing I could protect what little was left of Dad's legacy. I worked harder than ever, leading my team with the same care and respect he'd always shown. I'd suggest innovative strategies, like the time I pitched a marketing plan that could have saved us millions, and Mark would simply brush it off, deeming it too risky, only to then infuriatingly pitch it as his own brilliant idea a week later. I'd sit there biting my tongue, watching him shamelessly take credit for my hard work. It wasn't just me he overlooked. It was anyone who didn't kiss the ring. Women, quiet folks, people who cared more about tangible results than superficial optics. He'd stride through the office like a conquering king, tossing out snide, demeaning comments, expecting us all to scramble. And I did scramble, but not for him. I scrambled for the company I still deeply believed in. Day after day, I poured myself into that place. I'd stay late, meticulously poring over data-tweaking projects and rallying my team when morale dipped to alarming lows. We hit significant milestones, like that complex software platform we built from scratch. It was grueling. My team and I pulled countless all-nighters, fueled by lukewarm coffee and sheer stubbornness. When it finally launched, it was an undeniable hit. Sales soared and industry blogs raved. I was so incredibly proud of us. But at the celebration party, Mark took the stage glass raised and toasted his leadership, not a single word about the dedicated people who had actually made it happen. I stood at the back, arms crossed, watching him selfishly bask in the spotlight. My team deserved that recognition, that spotlight, not him. But I didn't storm up there. I just smiled faintly and kept going. There were nights I'd sit alone in my office after everyone else had left, the hum of the building fading into silence, and honestly wonder, am I enough? I'd replay Mark's cruel words. You lack vision. You're not assertive. And feel this gnawing, insidious doubt. Was he right? Was I too soft, too quiet? But then I'd think of my father, of how he led with quiet kindness and still built an empire. No, I'd tell myself, a spark of defiance igniting. It's not me, it's him. He doesn't see value unless it's loud and brash. I had allies, though, small comforting beacons in the corporate fog. Sarah from accounting, who'd slip me a coffee and a knowing grin when I looked utterly drained. "You're the real deal, Elena," she'd say softly. Tom from engineering, who'd always nod at my ideas, even when Mark summarily shot them down. They saw me even if he didn't. And that quiet support kept me pushing. One night, I was working late again when Mark passed by my open door. My desk lamp cast a soft glow over the chaos of papers and empty coffee cups. He leaned in, a condescending smirk on his face. "Burning the midnight oil, huh? Dedication's nice, but it doesn't win wars." I looked up, tired but steady. "Maybe not," I said calmly, "but it builds things that last." He chuckled as if I'd said something cute and naive, and casually walked off. I stared at the empty doorway, frustration simmering a slow burn in my chest. He thought I was just a footnote, an easily disposable cog in his machine. He had no idea what was truly coming. The revelation and the reclamation. Everything changed dramatically on my 30th birthday. I woke up to sunlight streaming warmly through my apartment window, a quiet sense of peace wrapping around me. I wasn't big on birthdays, too busy usually. But this one felt different, weighted with an unspoken significance. Mid-morning, my phone buzzed. It was Mr. Harrison, our longtime family lawyer. His voice was warm, but oddly cryptic. "Elena, I have something for you. Your father left instructions. You're not to see it until today." Curious, my heart pounding with anticipation, I drove to his office, a cozy space, filled with wood-paneled walls and the faint, comforting scent of old books. He handed me an aged envelope sealed with Dad's familiar wax stamp. the one he'd used for special letters. My fingers hesitated for a moment as I carefully broke it open. Inside was a letter in his neat, unmistakable handwriting, and tucked behind it, a formal legal document. I unfolded the letter first, my eyes devouring his familiar script. "Elena," it began. "If you're reading this, you've turned 30, and that means you're ready. I never doubted it, not for a second. You've spent your life working twice as hard for half the recognition. I saw it even when you thought I didn't. The sacrifices, the late nights, the unwavering integrity no one else seemed to notice. I also saw how the company changed after I left, and I knew there might come a time when you'd need more than just a seat at the table. So I gave you the table." My breath caught in my throat. Tears pricked my eyes as I turned to the document. A trust agreement, it said. 90% of Rentec's shares had been placed in my name, held until I turned 30, with full voting rights activated now. I owned the company. 90%. Me. I read it again, then a third time, my hands trembling with disbelief. "Is this real?" I asked Mr. Harrison, my voice shaky, barely a whisper. "Yes," he said, calm as ever, a gentle smile on his face. "Your father structured it to stay off public records. It's airtight. The board doesn't know unless you tell them." I sat there, stunned, adrenaline buzzing wildly through every vein. "Why not sooner?" I asked, my voice still trembling. He smiled faintly, a knowing look in his eyes. "He wanted you to see the company for yourself first, to know who'd reveal their true colors before you decided what to do." That hit me like a powerful wave. All those years of being underestimated, talked over, dismissed. Dad had seen it all. He'd known I'd need leverage, not just a title, to truly make a difference. And now, I had it. I didn't rush in guns blazing. I needed a carefully crafted plan. I met with Mr. Harrison again, meticulously going over every legal step. "We can call a shareholder meeting," he said, his voice brimming with confidence. "With your shares, you control the agenda." I nodded slowly. "Not yet. I'll tell you when." I wanted Mark to feel utterly secure, to truly believe he'd won, to let him underestimate me one last fatal time. 2 weeks later, he fired me. And in doing so, he handed me the perfect, undeniable opening. I texted Mr. Harrison that afternoon. "It's time. Prepare everything." His reply came instantly. "Understood. Meeting set in 5 business days." The day I got fired, I packed up quietly, a favorite mug my team had given me, some notebooks full of innovative ideas Mark had summarily ignored, and that cherished photo of Dad. The office buzzed with nervous whispers as I left. Colleagues shot me sympathetic looks or pointedly avoided my eyes. No one dared to ask what had happened, but I could feel their unspoken questions. What happened? Did she mess up? I stepped outside the warm sunlight hitting my face and smiled. Just a small, private, knowing smile. They thought this was the end. They were so wrong. The boardroom coup. The next few days, I prepped relentlessly. I met Mr. Harrison in a bustling downtown cafe, sipping a flat white as he slid the final meticulously prepared documents across the table. "You sure about this, Elena?" he asked, his gaze piercing. "This will be a grenade in their boardroom." I met his gaze, my resolve hardening. They pulled the pin when they fired me. I also sat down with Caroline Winters, the sharp trustee who'd managed the shares. She handed me a thick folder, the ownership papers, plus a brutal detailed summary of Mark's disastrous tenure. Declining morale, high turnover, flat revenue despite a booming market. "He's been coasting on hype," she said, her voice grim. "He'll tank this place in 2 years if he stays." I nodded. The numbers would speak for themselves. Monday came and rumors were flying through the company. Texts from old colleagues pinged my phone. "Did you quit?" "Mark's acting normal, but HR's weird about it." "Hope you're okay." I didn't reply. Silence was my most powerful ally. That night I stood in front of my mirror, trying on a sharp-tailored navy suit I'd bought ages ago, but never had the occasion to wear. The kind you wear to own a room. I practiced a few lines, not a grand speech, just the unvarnished truth, plain and clear. Tuesday morning, I walked back into Rentec past the receptionist, who blinked twice in surprise, but didn't stop me. Mr. Harrison met me by the elevators. "They're in there," he said, a glint in his eye. "Mark thinks it's a routine strategy review." I smoothed my jacket, took a deep breath, and stepped forward. The boardroom door clicked open. Heads turned abruptly. Mark was mid-sentence, gesturing grandly, and froze when he saw me. "Elena!" He snapped, his voice tight with irritation. "This is for board members only." I calmly set my documents on the gleaming polished table and smiled. Exactly. I walked purposefully to the head seat, the one traditionally reserved for the CEO, and sat down. Silence dropped like a heavy stone. Mark stared, confusion twisting slowly into disbelief. "This is a board meeting," he said, sharper now. "Employees aren't I'm not here as an employee, I cut in, my voice calm but firm, holding his furious gaze. I'm here as the majority shareholder. The room shifted. Board members sat up, some curious, some tense, some openly shocked. Mr. Dalton, an old-timer from Dad's era, peered at the papers I'd slid him. Is this accurate? He asked, his voice low. Yes, I said, my voice resonating with authority. 90% of the shares transferred to me via trust on my 30th birthday. All legal, notarized, filed. Mark scoffed loudly, a desperate, hysterical sound. You can't be serious. Why would your father? Because he trusted me, I said, cutting directly through his bluster, my voice unwavering. And because he knew what this company truly needed. I opened the second folder filled with damning evidence. As majority shareholder, I've called this meeting to review executive leadership, starting with the CEO. Mark shot up, his face beat red with rage. This is a coup et vendetta. I raised my voice just enough to be heard clearly over his indignant shouts. I'm not asking. I'm acting. I slid the detailed financial report across the table. Let's talk performance. The numbers were damning: employee satisfaction, down 38%, turnover, up 47%, 3 discrimination complaints, rotting in HR revenue flat while competitors soared. I laid it all out: testimony from disillusioned staff audits, undeniable proof of Mark's wasteful spending, lavish trips, bloated bonuses, fudged reports. All under your watch, I said, locking eyes with him. He sputtered, desperate. You're twisting this for revenge. I don't need to twist, I replied, my voice chillingly calm. I have facts. You banked on no one challenging you. That ends now. I pulled out the final paper, my voice strong. Effective immediately, I'm moving to remove Mark Reynolds as CEO. My 90% vote carries it. The secretary wide-eyed gaped. You don't need a second. Not with a majority, I said. Mr. Dalton nodded slowly, a faint approving smile on his face. Motion stands. Mark slammed the table, a final futile gesture, but he didn't fight long. He stormed out, pure rage twisting his face, and for the first time he didn't look powerful. He just looked small. I turned to the board, my voice softer but filled with conviction. This company deserves better. So do its people. Starting today, that's what we'll give them. Mr. Dalton smiled openly now. Welcome back, Elena. Back. Rebuilding and legacy didn't stop at firing him. Taking him down felt good, sharp, satisfying. But this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about rebuilding. That very Monday, I called an all-hands meeting in the main hall. The room filled slowly. Employees' wary, curious uncertainty etched on their faces. I stood alone on the stage. No notes, just me. Some of you know me. I started, my voice clear and steady. Some only know what you've heard. But I'm here to restore trust. I smiled faintly. I was fired last week. Told I wasn't what this place needed. I didn't argue. Not then. Because true leadership isn't about shouting. It's about vision and respect. A few quiet laughs broke the tension. They were listening. For years, this company ran on you, your ideas, your grit, your belief in it. That got lost. Starting today, it comes back. I spent weeks doing nothing but listening, meeting everyone from new interns to veteran custodians, asking them what they truly needed to thrive. I promoted Maya, who'd been a rock in customer service, to lead client experience. I rehired Kevin, a brilliant developer Mark had cruelly driven off. I gutted HR fired managers who'd bred fear and favoritism and launched the People First initiative, a comprehensive program focused on recognition for all and clear career paths with no more artificial ceilings. The shift was slow at first, then sudden and palpable. Laughter returned to the break room. Desks sprouted plants and personal photos. One day, I saw a whiteboard note scrawled in the common area, "She came back." Not "she won," but "she came back." That hit deeper than any title. A year later, I stood at the glass doors of the renovated lobby, now as CEO, my suit crisp, a profound sense of peace settling within me. We'd just completed our strongest quarter in 5 years' revenue, up significantly, employee retention soaring. All done right with integrity. The entire office felt alive again, vibrant, energetic, just like it had in Dad's days. I kept his portrait behind my desk, a quiet, reassuring reminder. We did it, I whispered to him one night alone in the office with the city lights twinkling outside. This wasn't just victory. It was home. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. Share it with someone who might need to hear it today, and subscribe for more real-life business journeys. And drop a comment below. Tell me your thoughts, or even share your own stories of overcoming challenges and proving your worth. Let's build something real together. Thanks for being here.